Welcome to the Kelly Patrick Show. Thank you for tuning in. In today's episode, I am joined by Todd Pickett. Todd, this is the first time I've got to interview you. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Is this the first podcast interview you've done?
This is the first.
You've done some interviews, though.
Yeah, I've done a few, but this is my first podcast. Yeah.
Okay, so kind of long form.
Mm-hmm.
Good deal. Well, I appreciate you coming on. I've done so many episodes interviewing fighters that I don't know as well as I do you. And so we finally get to sit down and chat.
Yeah, you've asked me a few times to come on.
Yeah. It's almost like you didn't want to. I got the vibe from you over the years. You didn't want to start like hyping yourself up like you were a big deal.
Yeah.
Is that kind of what I was what I was sensing was accurate? You didn't want to be hyping yourself up like you're a big deal until you had actually done something a little bit.
Yeah, I'm not big on like talking and bragging about myself and stuff, so I've never really like seeked out the interviews or podcasts, but I think it's kind of a must these days in fighting. You kind of have to be good at that kind of stuff. So,
being this is the first time I've interviewed you, if it's all right, if we could do an introduction. If someone's watching, they're not familiar with who's Todd Pickett. You're from like Shelbyville or Shelby County or Frankfort type area.
I was
originally
born and raised in Frankfurt.
Okay.
Yeah, and then middle school I moved to Shelby County, and I jumped around a lot as a kid. Went to almost every elementary school in Frankfurt. Middle school went to Shelby County. I went to Henry County Middle Schools, Frankfurt Middle Schools.
Why were you jumping around so much?
Just like family stuff, like
moving.
Yeah.
Okay.
I grew up with my grandma when I was a kid and bounced around with my mom and stuff like that. But my main spot as a kid was with my grandma, and then moved in with my mom in middle school, and just bounced around with my dad, my mom, and stuff until about high school. And then in high school, that's when like my mom kind of settled down. I lived with her full time from there.
Okay. And what high school did you end up going to?
I went to Mark Lane Collins.
Okay.
In Shelby County.
Okay. And I met you when you were age 15. You're 24 now?
23. 24 next month.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I met you when you were 15. So that kind of the story you just gave kind of brings us up to that point, I guess. Right?
Yeah.
Prior to you walking into Gracie Jiu-Jitsu Kentucky in 2017.
2017. Yep, May 2017.
You had the seed was planted in your head that you wanted to be an MMA fighter already, right? How did that happen? Walk me through that.
So I got introduced to MMA when I was young as a kid, like 9 or 10. And at that time, I didn't really do many sports growing up. I did a little football, but I didn't do really any sports, and I didn't really enjoy football when I did it. But when I was like 9 or 10, I saw the UFC, and I was like, man, that stuff's pretty cool. I was already in the WWE, stuff like that. I was like, man, they're fighting in the cage. That's pretty cool. And I wanted to get into martial arts, but at the time, like my parents didn't really think it was a good idea, just because like I was getting in trouble and stuff in school, and
they assumed you'd just be fighting people.
I think so, yeah, because I was always like roughhouse with my friends and stuff, and like getting suspended from school for like fighting or whatever. So,
but they always kind of knew after about age 10, Todd wants to do some type of combat stuff. It's just a matter of maybe kind of when. Does that sound right? Age 10 or 11 is when that happened for you?
Yeah, I was around 10, like 5th grade. So yeah, I was around 10 when I wanted to get into some type of like karate or martial arts or something. But they didn't really think that was a good idea at the time. But yeah, I got introduced to I kind of fell out of like watching UFC or anything like that. But when I was 15 is when I got into training martial arts. Okay,
so can you walk me through that? What happened when you were age 15? You found Gracie, Kentucky, obviously 11461 Blankenbaker Access Drive in J-Town. Geographically, it's kind of close to the Interstate 64, which is close to Frankfurt. Kind of makes sense. It's all adding up. But how did you find Gracie, Kentucky?
Well, I was living in Finchville at the time with my mom, and I had just gotten into some trouble in school, and I really wasn't doing anything. I was just staying at home. We lived on a big farm, so
I think I went over there one
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a nice big place. Yeah.
Yeah, so we lived on a big farm, so I didn't have any like kids around me or anything like that to hang out with. So I was just at home, staying at home, playing video games all day, like just not doing anything like productive with my life. I didn't have any like path that I had in mind that I was going to go for, like college or career wise or anything. And my mom, she just was like, you know, she knew somebody whose son was doing jujitsu. So she was like, you're into fighting, like, you want to try jujitsu out? And I was like, sure, I'll give it a try. I'll come try it out. And so she looked up the nearest jujitsu gyms, and luckily it was, Gracie Jiu-Jitsu of Kentucky. And she took me there, and been there ever since.
The rest is kind of history. What are your memories about walking into Gracie, Kentucky? My memories of rolling with you at the beginning is even like day one and stuff, you were trying triangles and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like you were really going for the kill. Maybe you weren't like locking them up and getting them to day one.
Yeah.
But I remember I was like thinking, this kid is really going for it. You were trying triangles and stuff very early.
Yeah. I mean, I played the UFC game and stuff, so I kind of knew, like...
Do you think that the UFC game helps your jiu-jitsu?
I don't think it helped me.
But you were familiar with what the body mechanics were.
Like, I knew what an armbar was, and I knew what, like, a triangle choke was, and, like, a guillotine choke, but, like, I didn't know how to get there, or, like, the positions or the steps to get there. But, no, like, my first views of like going into Gracie Jiu-Jitsu Kentucky was like, man, this is freaking awesome. This is cool. And my first day actually was I rolled with Rich Van Hook.
Love Rich Van Hook.
Yeah. So that was cool. Like I was like, this is kind of like an older guy, and he was cool. He was showing me some stuff, and I rode with Jose too. Jose's a smaller guy at our school.
Professor Jose Fernandez in U of L.
Yep. I rode with him, and he pretty much like did whatever he wanted to me. He's a super small guy.
He probably doesn't like hearing you say that now. He's like, oh God, I hope Todd doesn't hold that against me now.
No.
I think there's a lot of us who remember when you were 15 and kind of filled out a little bit.
A little bit, yeah. Yeah, I've grown up a little bit.
So Jose kind of was doing well with you, Rich Van Hook.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, did you know that you wanted to end up doing MMA?
I kind of already, like, when my mom suggested me that I do jujitsu, I was kind of already like, okay. Like, I didn't know, like, what it entailed, but I was like, I would like to fight. That was, like, in my head, like, that'd be, like, I enjoy, like, watching fighting and stuff. I've always been into fighting. So, if I could do it, that'd be cool. I did think about that, but I didn't know, like, what it took to be a fighter, and I wasn't like really into the UFC big or anything like that. But I kind of did have an idea in my head, like, yeah, I would like to try it.
But you started to get into the UFC big time.
Oh yeah, big time. Like after my first jiu-jitsu class, I went home that night. I was watching like all the documentaries I could on jiu-jitsu, and really got into the UFC. Like Conor McGregor was big at the time. Sean O'Malley was just getting to the UFC. Like guys like that, like I started really watching their story and how they got into it. And I was like, yeah, this could be something that I could do. And I really enjoyed it too. That's one thing that the jiu-jitsu is like one thing I've done in my life where I like really love to do it,
And you meet nice people through it, and it's like such a healthy thing.
Yeah, like I feel like that was something I was like searching for. I was acting out a lot as a kid, and I just didn't have like an outlet where I could put my energy into, or like a sport or anything like that. And jiu-jitsu was definitely that for me. People started like, man, you're really good. Like, you're starting to catch on to this. So it felt good for sure.
Okay. So you're 15. You start to zone in on your plan of making, at that time, were you maybe thinking of right when you turned 18, you'd make an MMA debut? How did that process go? How do you remember that?
Yeah, well, when I first started, I didn't have a striking coach. I was just in a jiu-jitsu gym, working my jiu-jitsu. So I'd go home and I'd watch like John Jones highlights or Conor McGregor highlights, and I had a heavy bag out in the building. I would just watch their highlights on YouTube, and I would like try to do the moves that I saw in the heavy bag at home, and that's not really going to get you far. You need a coach. And I think it was you that introduced me to Rock. Like 6 months after I started training, and I started training with Rock Muay Thai. He was like my first striking coach that I got, and by that time I kind of knew I wanted to do MMA. This was what I wanted to do, and I had an idea that right when I turned 18 I wanted to make an amateur debut, but I came to find out it takes a long time. Some guys train for a little bit and make their amateur debut, but I really wanted to do it the right way. So I took a kickboxing fight when I was 18, and that went all right. And then did a bunch of jiu-jitsu tournaments, and then COVID hit kind of soon after that. I was wanting to make my MMA debut at 19.
I was saying 2017, you were 15. 3 years later, 2020. That's when you're turning 18, so that did overlap. Now that I'm thinking back on it, I hadn't quite put it together, but that must have impacted something to do with your amateur debut or something.
Yeah. I think I was actually supposed to make an amateur debut December 2020, and COVID was just going around, so all the shows around that time were getting canceled. And so I was just talking with my coach and stuff, and he's like, "Look, you're still young. You're only 18. Just keep training and competing, and take your time, keep improving." And I think I made my MMA debut when I was 21.
Okay, yeah,
I think so. I think I was 21. It's 2022.
Okay. I do have some questions. I opened it up to Facebook, and I asked for questions from, of course, within the Kentucky MMA scene in this area. Everybody knows who Todd Pickett is. Before we jump into those questions, your amateur debut was against Anthony Mitchell in June of 2022.
Mm-hmm.
Then you fought against Elijah Woodruff, Liam Hamill. And this will spill into one of the questions, actually. Let me find this here. Christopher White asked 3 questions. I'll jump right to one of his questions. What is your favorite performance so far? You're 8-0 in your amateur MMA career. Looking back, what's your favorite performance of yours?
I would say my second fight with Liam Hamill.
The second Liam Hamill.
Second Liam Hamill fight, yeah. It was a tough fight. That was my first rematch. I had just fought him before that. He dropped me pretty good in that fight. So going into the second fight, I was not worried, but I was okay, this could go a few ways. The first one didn't go how I wanted it to, but the second fight.
You say the first one didn't go how you wanted it to. You won via strikes in the first round.
Yeah. I didn't expect to get dropped.
Yeah. Okay. So you got dropped. Was that a substantial? I mean, had you ever been hit like that up until that point?
I'd never been dropped.
Okay. He seems like a pretty strong guy.
No,
he's doing good in the pros right now.
Yep.
Was that a punch kind of like you'd never really experienced before, just the 4-ounce gloves?
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't say that was the hardest I've been hit, but I didn't see the punch coming.
Okay.
So when he hit me with it, I didn't even really know what I got hit with. It was just kind of a quick flash, and that's the first time I'd ever been dropped ever. And I landed on a knee and then woke back up, and was able to take his back and get a TKO. But that was a tough fight. The second one was tough, just because that was the first time I'd gone out of the first round. And he cut me open, and that was a good fight.
You won in the 4th round stoppage due to injury.
Yeah, he broke his hand. I think he broke his hand.
But you were winning probably a pretty decisive decision, maybe.
Oh yeah. I was.
You were using kickboxing in that fight. You look like you were kind of, and I said, I think on a podcast or something, you look like you had a real good MMA fight IQ. Mm-hmm. You were really measuring your distance well and doing some damage, backing out when you need to, things like that. What do you remember from how you won that fight tactically?
Yeah, I just remember I was able to control the distance really well. Like I could in the first fight when I fought him, I was just walking forward, like, and just in my head I was like, whatever he's gonna throw at me, I'm just gonna walk through it and get the finish. Not the smartest way to fight, but
Well, it's good that you're acknowledging, you probably didn't go into the fight thinking this is what I need to do.
yeah,
But you're saying when you got in there, that was your strategy, for being honest.
yeah, just walk forward,
And
just
it
walk
worked.
him down,
It
yeah.
did work.
It ended up working, yeah. I mean, it almost backfired because he dropped me pretty good, but it did work. In the second fight, though, that was the first fight I had with my new striking coach, Junie Millar, and he helped me a lot with my boxing with that fight, and just like understanding the distance, like using fakes, um, understanding the distance, not rushing, you know. Um, So yeah, I feel like for that fight, I was just able to manage the distance a lot better, and instead of just walking Liam down, I was able to cut the cage off, throw in fakes, and use a little more of my game in the second fight.
Okay. I'm going to continue with some questions I got I'll say it, from your fans out there. We have Damon Green. Shout out to Damon. He asks, Todd, would you ever use foot locks, or let's say leg locks, in an MMA fight if the opportunity presented itself?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if I saw a heel hook or an ankle lock there, I would definitely take it. I know a lot of MMA fighters aren't tapping the leg locks unless it's really locked in.
You said Eric Moore one. That was wild.
I
In
did
Bowling
see
Green,
that.
Eric Moore from Derby City was fighting a jiu-jitsu guy from 10th Planet, Indianapolis. Ian Pomfret was in his corner.
Okay.
And I apologize, I forgot the name of the opponent. He looked like a jiu-jitsu guy. And Eric Moore is a kickboxer.
Mm-hmm.
You probably trained with Eric.
Yeah, I trained with him.
Yeah, he's an athlete.
He's good.
Yeah. And he's a very good kickboxer. But the jiu-jitsu guy had him in some leg attacks. And during commentary, I was like, what the hell? Can't believe he's not tapping. And Eric got through it, kind of fought through it, ended up winning. Very impressive win. But I think he's out for a few months, or a couple months of walking.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like in a fight, it's guys will just let their knee rip off, like let their ankle break. So I mean, it's tough. I feel like for me, I would use a leg lock mainly to like change position. Like if I'm on bottom, I'd probably use a leg lock to get a sweep or something, or get back to my feet. I don't think I would really, unless it's there. I don't think I'd really go for it for a submission, like all out.
Shout out to Jordan Gass. Jordan is 5-4 amateur fighter. He won the title at the last HR MMA show in Bowling Green. First round, heel hook. He got a submission to win the title.
Yeah, wasn't that was against Damian Sanders, right?
Correct.
Club MMA.
Yeah. So that was pretty cool. Not that I'm saying it's necessarily the most high percentage thing, I don't know, but it is cool. One of the appealing things to me about the sport of MMA, I grew up with basketball, baseball, football. I love commentating MMA and training it and all that stuff, because there's so many like ways a fight can go.
Oh yeah. Fighting's crazy, man. You could be winning the whole fight, and then just a guy can land something, and the fight can be over, or can throw up a submission, the fight's over. It's pretty wild.
All right, so I'm going to continue with some questions here. Eddie Donaldson, of course, asks, how was it working with Eddie Donaldson?
Working with Eddie Donaldson was cool. I saw he was putting in a lot of work promoting the LFA event.
He was. He came on this podcast a few times. He was setting up interviews for me. He was doing all sorts of work.
Yeah, I know
he got, I think, most of the amateur fighters like sponsors.
He got me a sponsor. Yeah. Shout out to Axel Holmes. He got me a sponsorship, which was super cool. And he came into the gym a few times and was talking to us. Actually, like without Eddie Donaldson, I probably wouldn't have fought on the LFA card, because I was under the impression that they weren't doing amateur fights for that card, and so I was planning on fighting on the past Hard Rock event.
I remember last time you fought, you said you were going to get back in there May 31st.
Yeah, that's what I was planning, because I didn't think that the LFA was doing amateurs, but Eddie hit me up and he was like, "Hey man, we'd love to have you on the card." I was like yeah.
What was the name of your sponsor again?
Axolotl Arms.
Is that in J-Town?
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah, it's like Bluegrass Parkway.
Okay, Axolotl Arms Gun Shop in Jeffersontown, Kentucky, 11226 Bluegrass Parkway, Louisville, Kentucky, 40299. So it's a gun shop right there close to Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, Kentucky.
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah, it's like a veteran-owned gun shop. It's pretty cool.
Okay, so Eddie Donaldson, from your perspective, did some good work with this show.
100%. Yeah, I think he was promoting the event like crazy, handing out flyers, putting flyers everywhere, going to different gyms.
It's a difficult thing to do. Is you're like, hey guys, I know that this is Louisville, Kentucky, where college basketball is king. There's not that big of a. It's not like the biggest MMA market in the world.
Definitely.
So trying to fill up or get close to getting a lot of people in Freedom Hall, if your name's not the UFC, it's not the easiest thing, I don't think, to do.
No, definitely not. It helps having guys like Eddie, go out, promote it, go to different like businesses. I think he even went to like Bellarmine College and was putting up flyers there and stuff.
He was, there was a guy, and I interviewed the all-time leader in wins for Bellarmine College Wrestling, which is now D1. I forget his name, Eric Beck, something like that. But he was supposed to be on the LFA card.
Okay.
So Eddie Donaldson was out there doing some good work. Wouldn't it be cool to get a nice inroad with the Bellarmine Wrestling program?
Yeah, that'd be super cool. Me and Lance actually for this camp, we got to work with a few of the D1 wrestlers from Bellarmine. So that was really cool.
That is the name, Eric Beck. I got it right. All-time leader in wins for Bellarmine. He's an amateur Form 1. They were going to try to get him on this card. His opponent fell out, but I think the growth of the sport of wrestling in this area inevitably would be a good thing for the sport.
Oh yeah, 100%. Definitely.
Continuing right along, Daryl Yarborough asks, do you think you will ever be able to take your Uncle Daryl in a fight? Do you think you'll ever be able to beat Daryl up in a fight?
At his weight, it would be, if he got a hold of me, it would be hard.
I've done wrestling. I've tried to do wrestling with Daryl. Like, you do jiu-jitsu and we're kind of playing around. Mm-hmm. I start in top half guard or whatever. That's one thing. But I have casually, and he's so big and strong with the wrestling thing. If it starts standing, at least for me, I'm not saying for you, I don't,
No. Yeah.
But he's capable of picking me up and throwing me wherever he wants.
Oh yeah. No, like if he gets a hold of you, that's gonna be a problem. But if I can get him down to my weight class.
You think he can make 170?
I mean, that's the only way I'd fight him.
Okay.
Get down, cut some weight.
I'll follow up on that question. Christopher White, Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, Kentucky, says, what are your thoughts on your future in welterweight or a move to lightweight?
I'm definitely going to move to lightweight. I already talked to my coaches and stuff before this fight. After this fight, it was going to be my last fight at 170. Just because, I'm going to be looking to go pro soon. And the guys at 170 are just huge, man. They're cutting.
Yeah.
I don't ever see 200 pounds. And most of those guys are cutting from 200 plus.
So you need to get down to 155.
Yeah. I feel like even 145 maybe.
Wow. Okay.
Eventually, like.
I guess you're 23, so we didn't know exactly how tall you'd end up being. Now would be the time to. You're almost 24.
Yep.
Probably not getting much taller. So now's the time to figure out what your destination weight class is. And you're confident. It sounds like you're confident. It's not welterweight.
I'm definitely not welterweight. No, lightweight for sure is going to be my next fight. 155 amateur MMA, or maybe not amateur, but next MMA fight 155. Definitely, yeah.
Next question is nickname ideas. Controversial topic with you.
Yes, I'm not too fond of nicknames.
Rob Mooney, legendary Rob Mooney. You heard?
I've heard the nickname. Yeah.
Yeah, the ticket.
Yeah.
It rhymes at least.
I mean, it rhymes. But...
He said, "Todd the Pickett ticket, punch it."
Yeah.
But you don't necessarily want a nickname.
It's not that I don't want a nickname. I'm definitely not going to give myself a nickname. And
BJ Ferguson came on here and said he gave himself the nickname the Boogeyman. He was taunting someone. He's saying, "I'm going to creep up, like scare you under your bed. I'm the Boogeyman." and he started taunting people online, and he meant it on the podcast. He gave himself a nickname. So maybe not a bad move to give yourself a nickname.
I mean, that's cool, but
Not for you.
Not for me.
Probably
no.
not for you.
The-
Okay.
Yeah, the few that have been thrown around, the kid was one. The ticket is another, but nothing's hitting just yet.
Mary Joan Mullins commented and said, "Would you rather have penis-sized nipples or a nipple-sized penis?"
Those are both not good.
Neither of them sounds real desirable.
No.
No.
I feel like the penis-sized nipples is the way to go, because then you can.
Yeah, the nipple-sized penis thing, that would be rough to
That would be hard. Yeah.
That would be, okay.
You don't got much to work with there.
Okay, thank you very much for the question, Mary Joan Mullins. Let's see. Steve Meredith commented, "Would you like to call anyone out for your pro debut?" And let me clarify, you just said that you will be making, this is your last fight at 170.
Yeah.
Is your next MMA fight definitely going to be pro?
I feel like it will be.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm gonna do some kickboxing fights before then, just to get more comfortable with the striking. So I feel like that's like my biggest hole in my game right now is my striking. And I feel like if I just took another amateur fight, I mean, fighting's so crazy, like it's happening so quick that I would probably just end up taking the guy down and using my jiu-jitsu anyway.
Okay. Oh, I see.
You know, so I feel like
You always want to win, yeah. I can imagine.
like I could take another amateur MMA fight and be like, okay, I'm just gonna stand with this guy. But you know, once the fight starts happening, I'd probably end up taking him down and using my jiu-jitsu. So my plan is to have like a few kickboxing fights, probably 2 kickboxing fights, and see where I go from there.
Anyone you'd like to call out for a kickboxing matchup?
No.
Anyone you'd like to call out for an MMA pro debut?
Pro debut. I mean, I heard that there's somebody that'd like to fight me
Oh, yeah?
as a pro.
155?
155, yeah.
Are they someone I'm familiar with?
Yep, yeah.
You're able to tell me?
Sergio Martinez.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
He just fought Travis.
Yeah, he just fought Travis Hudson.
He won a split decision over Travis Hudson. Very close fight.
Yeah, that was a close fight. But yeah, I heard that he'd like to fight me at 155, so that's a possible matchup.
Okay. Thank you very much for the question there, Steve Meredith. Trey Wills commented, "Toughest opponent he's been in there with and why?"
I'll say my toughest opponent. It's probably been Liam.
Okay.
The first fight and the second fight, Liam's just a tough dude. He can take damage and he hits hard. He's a good wrestler too, so hard to take him down. But yeah, I would say Liam.
Okay. Brent Eskridge has 2 questions. I'll jump to his first question first. Who is his biggest influencer right now and why? Don't know exactly if he means a social media influencer or if it's someone who influences you. So you take the question, you know?
Yeah, I would say like, I guess he means like inspiration or something like that. I would say Lance.
Oh, shit. Okay, good answer.
Yeah.
The tornado?
Yeah, Lance Lawrence for sure. I remember when I first started, man, Lance was a huge inspiration for me. I would look at his Tapology and it'd be like 8-0, 8 finishes, and like 2 or 3-0, 3 finishes as a pro. I was like, man, I want to get there one day. Like, I kind of want to follow in his footsteps and get there. And just seeing Lance train and being around him in the gym and stuff, man, yeah, Lance is a huge inspiration for me. Even as a man too, like Lance is a great person.
Yeah, it helps that he has a beautiful wife and 2 daughters and all that. He's got it going on.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely.
Austin Miller asked, does he look up to or model his game after anyone in the UFC?
I would say that I'm a huge fan of Islam Makhachev right now. I really enjoy his fighting style and just how he carries himself outside of the cage too. You know,
Okay.
Good dude outside of the cage, and inside the cage, he always looking to finish. You know, that's kind of how I want to be as a fighter. Not not wanting to go to the decision, finish it on the feet or on the ground. And I like Islam Makhachev style.
All right. Brent Eskridge had another question. He said, when did Todd Pickett realize it was okay to smile? I don't know what he means by that. What do you think?
I mean, I've kind of always smiled here and there, I guess. I don't know. I just have a face where everybody thinks I'm like upset or mad all the time, but I don't know. I guess I should smile more.
Do you think that your demeanor of looking like you're mad would play into a nickname like the psychopath or something?
Possibly.
If you look like it,
I guess.
Have you been lifting more? You look very strong. Have you been lifting a whole lot more weights than you've ever lifted?
Yeah. My past 2 camps, I've been working with Brad Lonsdale at Everyday Athletes. And I've been consistently lifting weights. My past 2 fights, I think, two or 3 fights. Consistently in the gym lifting weights 3 days a week. He'll have us do like a strength conditioning program geared towards MMA. And I definitely feel like I've gotten stronger because of that.
Shout out to Brad.
Yeah.
Every day.
Shout out to Brad, Everyday Athletes.
Also in J-Town, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, so let's walk through some of these fights. There's a few of these fights we haven't talked about yet. Elijah Woodruff. Tell me about that fight. That was a first round, quick, rear naked choke. So on paper, it looks like it was easy work. I don't mean to insult him because he's a beast, actually. I commentated one of his fights. He had a very impressive win.
Yeah, Elijah Woodruff's a really good fighter, and he's improved a lot since moving down to 155. He looks a lot better.
Currently 1-0 pro.
Yeah, he's a really good fighter. I hate our fight. That's the one fight on my record that I wish I could redo, and I hate that fight because just like my first 3 fights, especially that one, I was just going into the fight so like amped up and just like so worried about losing. Like I was in my head so much like, I can't lose. I have to win.
You had a bunch of people there watching.
Yeah, like tons of people there supporting me and stuff. And like, I was like, I have to win this fight. I can't lose. And I just feel like I built the fight up so much in my head that like when I got in the cage, it was just like nothing. I was just so tunnel vision on the fight. Like I wasn't thinking about anything, which is okay. But like my adrenaline was pumping up so much that like, if you watch the fight, it looks like I like touched his glove and then like went straight for a punch. And in my head, there was like a small like reset from the glove touch. But like watching the fight, it doesn't look good. It looks like I did like a fake glove touch.
Brandon Bishop did that one time in a fight.
Yeah.
So if you feel like a piece of shit, maybe you should. But Brandon Bishop also did that.
Yeah.
Does that make you feel better?
I guess.
You didn't. So you honestly did not mean to do a fake.
No. I'm
and that's the main part that you regret about that fight. When you say you regret that fight, it's that it went that way.
Yeah, I hate that fight, man, because that's not who I am. Like,
did he say anything about it?
No, he didn't say anything about it. And we've seen each other and stuff after that. We've been cool, but I hate that moment. That's the one fight on my record that. Yeah, I hate that fight.
Rob Mooney says touching gloves is kind of silly.
I haven't touched gloves. I mean, I touched gloves with Gates this past fight because, he held his hand out. But I have not touched gloves since that fight. Just because I don't know.
You're like, I don't have time for that. Why do it? That's what Mooney says. Is what are we doing?
Yeah.
What's the point? We know we're in here to fight. It's not like we need to hear go.
For sure.
Like in free training, when you slap hands and knuckle bump means go.
Yeah.
The ref is handling that part of it.
Yeah, I know some fighters like they won't touch just because they don't want their opponent to gauge the distance. Like right when the fight starts, so they won't touch gloves for that reason. I mean, I'm not against touching gloves or anything. It's just like, I don't know. For my first few fights, I was just so amped up that I don't know. I just wasn't even thinking like the glove touch thing.
Well, that's good, right? That's what an amateur MMA career is probably for.
Oh, for sure.
Is getting through the adrenaline, the experience physiologically maybe
Mhm.
You getting in there and feeling like, you tell me, have you experienced a specific, you said in this fight, you remember against Woodruff, that you were like all amped up. Do you remember a time when you had like a real substantial, like specifically a adrenaline dump or something to that tune?
No, I mean, all my fights have finished quick, so I
Okay.
really haven't felt that adrenaline dump.
Except for the second Liam fight when into the
Yeah.
fourth round.
And in that fight, that was the calmest I've ever been.
You looked really good in that fight. I remember saying afterward, I was impressed. It looked like you went against a wrestler and you had a game plan.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you got good takedown defense. You use your kickboxing to win,
Yeah.
which was pretty cool. I thought that's what I said. That fight IQ. So that when you were calm, why were you so calm?
I'm not sure. I'm not really sure why I was so calm. I think I went into that fight trying to have that mindset. Like I went into the fight just trying to not worry so much about the win or the loss, and just go out there and have fun, and enjoy it, because I love doing MMA. It's what I love to do. So instead of just like amping yourself up so much about like, no, I have to win if I lose, like my life's over, my career is going to be over if I lose. It's like, no, like the people that are your team and family and stuff, they're still going to support you
If you lose,
if you lose,
that is funny. That
yeah,
in your mind, you're probably it's a big deal.
yeah. Like
everybody from who came to support you,
they're still going to be behind you and supporting you whether you win or you lose. So the outcome really doesn't matter. And I feel like for that fight, I was just focused on being in the present moment and just enjoying the moment instead of like worrying too much about the win or the loss.
Your next fight was in August of 2024. I actually got to commentate this one against DeAndre Tipton. You were 4-0 headed into the fight. He was 2-2. What can you tell me about this fight?
Yeah, that fight was interesting because I was supposed to fight Graham Hunter for that fight.
That's right.
Yeah, and Graham Hunter, he's known locally. He's a really good striker. So yeah, I was supposed to fight him. I think it was like 2 or 3 weeks before he had to pull out, and I got DeAndre Tipton. It was kind of similar styles with Graham, so game plan didn't change much. And that fight was good. He was like a tall, lanky kind of guy. It was weird though, because like the fight was at 170 and he showed up to weigh-ins at like 160.
I didn't. Yeah. Okay.
He weighed in at like 160 for the fight, and I was like, what? Like, that's weird. I guess he just, I don't know, he just took the fight on short notice. It was a title fight, so maybe, I don't know why, but.
It was a first round arm triangle. You
Yeah.
remember specifically what you did?
Yeah, like I think I hit him with a leg kick to start the fight off, and then I threw like an overhand right into a body lock and was able to get him down, and mounted him. And once I mounted him, I felt his level like was not on mine.
You were going to be able to submit him.
Yeah. Yeah, I felt like it was just a matter of time. I remember like hitting the body a little bit to try to open up the head and arm, and I ended up getting the head and arm locked in. I made a mistake though with the head and arm. I stayed mount with it instead of going knee on belly, and he was able to like bridge me over. Luckily, he wasn't like strong enough, I guess, to come on top with it. But yeah, I was able to put him back on his back and get the choke.
Okay. That was August of 2024. A few months later, November of 2024, I think that was in Bowling Green, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Christopher Cornut, 6-3. You were 5-0. Tell me about that matchup.
Yeah.
Alabama guy.
Yeah. This was. I knew this was going to be a tough fight because Chris, he's just like kind of like a brawler, kind of. He's a decent wrestler, but he just throws bombs. Like he's not scared to stay in the pocket and just throw bombs with you. So definitely going into the fight, I was like, I don't want to do that. Definitely don't want to like trade bombs with this guy.
And do you watch do you watch all the videos that are available about your opponents?
Yeah.
You're not ashamed to say that. Yeah, no. You do your homework.
Yeah, I definitely film study. I don't film study to the point where I'm like, okay, he's going to do this in the fight. I kind of film study to like see what they go for mainly, and then also kind of like just like how they respond to certain things that how they respond to certain fakes and stuff like that. Takedowns and takedown defense. But I don't like watch film like all the time every day. I'll just watch whatever fights I can find.
And for Chris Cornett, you noticed that he liked to load up on some big shots.
Yeah, I noticed like he's got decent takedowns. His jiu-jitsu wasn't that good, but I knew like he wasn't scared to just like stay in the pocket and throw.
That's a wild thing. That's 4-ounce gloves. You're getting in there. You know that someone's strong. You can tell by looking at him. Lifelong wrestler.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to throw bombs. So I mean that's scary if it's a crackhead. To me, I mean, like if they're truly looking to just land, but if that's his thing.
Yeah, I mean, especially like in 4-ounce gloves, like if one of those catches you on the chin, like that can be over. Sure, like no matter skill level or what, like with those small gloves on, like any shot could put you down for sure. So going into that fight, I definitely wasn't looking to brawl with him, but I was definitely looking to take the fight to the ground and submit him, but I didn't expect to land a head kick. That was pretty cool. Like I landed a front kick to the body, and I saw like when I landed the front kick, he like put his hands down to try to block it. So I just immediately
picked up on that.
Yeah,
pattern.
Right after I threw it and I saw his hands drop, I was like, okay, I'm gonna bring it up to the head. So I faked it and then went to the head and it landed flush. He stayed up, but I was able to take him down and ground and pound him until I got the rear naked choke.
Okay. Then your next fight was, I don't think it's a teammate of his, but Damian Douglas, who was also maybe from Alabama.
Yeah, they had actually trained together before. They were opponents, so they had fought.
That's right, they had fought each other. Damian Douglas, February of 2025. That was in Shepherdsville. I remember this one. It wasn't that long ago.
It's just like 3 or 4 months ago.
What do you remember about that fight?
Yeah, that fight did not go how I expected it to go, and that's another thing. Going back to like film study and stuff, I was watching film on the guy, and he's a wrestler. He does throw like wild hooks and stuff, but his main thing was take the guy down and get on top and control him.
Kind of almost, and not saying this in a bad way, but almost like a deliberate wrestler. Like he would go out and wrestle.
Yep.
I remember watching some film.
Yeah, he would just hang on the leg. He would shoot in on the leg, and he wouldn't even try to really go for the takedown 100%. He would just hold you against the cage and, try to win points that way. So going into that fight, I was like, okay, he's going to try to take me down for sure. And he definitely did not. I threw like a blind head kick, and he threw an overhand right. This was only like 30 seconds into the fight, I think. And he dropped me pretty good. And I was kind of out of it. And then I kind of woke back up with him pulling out of an arm. I caught an arm bar. I don't even remember doing it. But he pulled out of the arm bar, and I remember waking back up a little bit and being like, okay, I got to get back up. So got back up, and I landed a few knees on him, I think, right after that. But
knees ended up being what did that.
Yeah. The knees.
A couple different sequences of knees.
Yeah. I remember landing. I remember trying like a Uchimata throw. I made a little mistake on the Uchimata throw and I didn't get it. But as we were going back up, I kneed him, and I could tell like he did not like the knee when I kneed him. And it's funny because like in Alabama they're not allowed to knee to the head.
Oh, okay.
So I don't think he's ever experienced knees to the head in a fight. So when I kneed him in the head, I could tell like he did not like that at all. And then like shortly after the round ended, and going into the second round, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go back to the knees if I can get to it. I'm gonna go back to it. And I think like a minute into the second round, I was able to get the clinch again, landed a few knees, and he did not like him at all. And I landed one good one that dropped him and ended up getting a TKO on him. But yeah, that was a tough fight because he dropped me, and I kind of had to overcome that.
Were you a little wobbly for a second after that?
Yeah, like I remember.
I watched it, of course. I was headshot, and I was like, oh shit. It looked like you were a little wobbly for a second.
No, I was. Yeah, I remember like getting back up to my feet, and we had a little exchange. But then like right after that, I was like trying to get my bearings back, like I was like trying to move around, get my bearings back, and I could just see him swinging for the fences, like he was swinging overhands at me, and I was like, dang, he's like trying to take my head off.
Sure, that's what he has to do. That's the strategy you gotta have. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, I'm like,
but in your moment of vulnerability, he was attacking.
Yeah, like I remember, trying to get myself back together and just him swinging overhand rights at me. I was like, dang, like if one of those lands, that's gonna be bad. But yeah, luckily I was able to.
You're able to get out of the first round.
Yeah.
And you almost finished it toward the end of the first round, I think.
Yeah, I had him flattened out. I took his back and flattened him out, and I just made a mistake going for the choke instead of ground pounding him. If I would have ground pounded him, I think I would have finished him in the first with like a few seconds left. But I went for a choke and the round ended. But I'm happy that the fight went that way. Like if I would have finished him in the first, I wouldn't have got to
that extra
like time in the cage. Like that's only the second fight I had where I've been to the school. So I feel like that was good.
What do you remember about the conversation that I guess Junie and Lance and Professor Scott Smith? I don't know what type of conversation did you guys have?
Yeah.
Between the rounds, the first and second round against those.
I don't even really.
It would make sense that you might not remember.
Yeah. I don't even remember. I just remember being in the round like, I'm gonna win. I'm gonna win this fight.
Because it looked like it was a continuation of what happened in the first round, and you quickly got it down in the second round and finished it.
Yeah.
It was kind of like this similar to what happened at the end of the first.
Yeah, I remember Lance mentioning something about like set up your leg kicks because I was throwing my leg kicks without any punches behind it. So I remember Lance like mentioning something like that. But I think I remember Junie saying something about the shoo bang because that landed. I landed a shoo bang on pretty decent in the first round. But yeah, I don't even remember that much. I just remember in my mind thinking like, I'm winning this fight this round.
Okay. Next fight, of course, was just this past. Yeah, it was June 13th. So last Friday. You fought Gates Cook. This was a step up, of course. And what I mean by that is a different level of a promotion. So before we jump into talking about specifically what happened inside the cage or what happened tactically in the fight, how you won, what's the differences between it? No offense to HRMMA, I love HRMMA. Mm-hmm. What type of differences can you tell me about between headed to the cage for one of those types of fights versus the LFA and the entirety of the process?
I would say it's way more professional. Like I love fighting for Hard Rock. Hard Rock's super cool. I've been competing for him since I was like 16. But I would just say like the level of the promotion, like the LFA has so much money behind it, being on UFC Fight Pass, and I think the LFA's been around for like over a decade, I think, like a long time. So I would say just the level of the production and the promotion, like the cameras, the lights, like they got the Monster Energy logos, like all the big sponsors.
Yeah, OnlyFans sponsored.
Yeah, OnlyFans sponsored. Yeah. But I would just say the way it's ran too. It's ran like super professional. It was cool. And I've never been to Freedom Hall before. So like Lance was the main event, so we got a weigh-in day. We got to go there, and Lance did some interviews and stuff. And just like walking in there and like seeing like the big like screen.
That's cool. That's kind of like a UFC event, really.
Yeah, it was awesome, man. It was super cool. But like walking out, I thought it was gonna feel like different, but it honestly didn't. Like from a Hard Rock fight to this fight, walking out to the cage,
same emotional, really.
Same kind of feeling. Like I was just looking at my opponent in the cage, just like fully locked in on him. Like I didn't look up at the screens or the names or whatever. I didn't really get to enjoy it. I was just like so focused on the job at hand. But after my fight, going out there and like seeing the names, like everybody's fighters had their names like around the whole thing and the big screen. It was cool.
Okay. What can you tell me about, what did you know about Gates Cook prior to the matchup? What kind of a game plan did you plan on bringing into the cage, and what kind did you actually use?
What I knew about Gates was he was a striker, um, boxer, kickboxer. He comes from a good gym. They got some good fighters there. Um, I knew that his jiu-jitsu was definitely not on my level. I knew that for sure. Um, but I knew he was also like 6'4" and has like an 80-inch reach. So I've never competed against somebody like that with that like body type and stuff. So I knew that was going to be kind of like something that I had to get past. Um, but all the film that I watched on Gates, I was just thinking in my head, like, yeah, I'm going to get this fight to the ground and finish him. Like, I'm going to get a submission. Um, Going into the fight, uh, the first takedown I went for, I ended up on bottom now, which was definitely not what I expected.
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
like I remember getting a body lock on him, and he was like using like a bunch of strength when I got the body lock. He was like grunting and stuff and using a bunch of strength. And I went for like a sloppy inside trip, and he's just so tall. I didn't even like factor it in, but like he's so tall that when I went for that sloppy trip, I was kind of like off balance a little bit, and he just like stood over me and like bent me over, and like went right in the mouth. And I was like, oh shit, like that. I didn't expect to be here like early in the fight. So yeah, I was able to get out of the mount and stuff, and he had my back, but he just gave it up.
At one point, I think you got a single leg takedown.
Yeah, that was like shortly after when I got back up from him mounting me. Yeah, I was able to get a single leg. It was kind of like a sloppy single leg, honestly. And he just locked up the guillotine, which we knew that going into the fight that like the guillotine was his move. Like when guys shoot in on him, he'll snatch the neck. And I was thinking like yeah, he's not gonna guillotine me. Like
You're pretty hard to tap.
I'm pretty hard to choke out. Yeah, like
I would, yeah, it seems to be the case.
yeah, I'm pretty hard to choke out. So
especially if you're aware that he's going for what he's going for, so you were already passing to the correct, the correct position.
Yeah, and like during camp and stuff, we kind of were drilling, shooting in on him snatching the neck, and then like as I take him down, like ripping my head out from the choke. But I didn't do that. And when we landed on the ground, he had it locked in, and I was thinking, man, like, yeah, it's not that tight. So I was trying to like push it off my head, but it started to like get tighter and tighter. And I was like, okay, I got to roll my back to get out of this for sure. Like if I would have stayed on top, he probably would have put me out. But I gave up mount, rolled to my back, and was able to reverse it and get on top. But his arms were so long, and like he showed me after the fight, we talked a little bit, and he showed me how he does the choke. But his arms were so long, like even when I reversed it and I had him in side control, he still like was choking me a little bit from side control.
Okay.
Yeah, because his arms were so long. Usually when I get a guy in side control from guillotine, like it's not after that, like the choke's gone. It's not tight anymore. But yeah, when I was in side control, I was like, damn, he's still choking me. So I went for a Von Flu a little bit, and that loosened the choke up, and I was able to take him out, and then get the head on choke eventually.
Okay. I'm going to take a couple other questions. Sean McClure, the legendary ring announcer, Sean McClure, shout out to Sean. He asked a few questions. I think we've addressed most of it, but one of the parts he asked was, if the UFC called and said they could take you right now, would you do that?
I don't think I would. No,
Okay.
I don't think I would. I would, I would like to say yeah for sure, but I know in my head that my skill is not ready for the UFC level yet, and I'm confident in myself, and I believe in myself enough that I'll get to the UFC eventually. But right now, I don't think that I would. No.
Interesting in MMA, it seems that Chris Curtis didn't make the UFC till I think he was 35. So I'm not saying he wait that long at all. But it is interesting that everybody's kind of on their own journey, and there's different ways to get there, and it doesn't all have to be immediate.
Yeah, no, like, and I've kind of like learned that from fighters in the UFC that I've listened to and watched. Like, it's better to wait. It's some fighters, they get rushed into the UFC, and once you get to the UFC, man, like they don't they don't care about you. They'll feed you to the wolves, you know. And you fight a couple fights, you lose a couple, you get cut. Now you're back on the regional scene, fighting way back into the promotion. Like, I think it's better to wait until you've had that experience and you've had a lot of pro fights, then start, looking to get into the UFC. I mean, like guys like Yuri Prohaska, I don't think Yuri Prohaska got to the UFC until he was like 28, 30, but he had so much experience and built himself up so much outside of the promotion. He only had 2 fights and then fought for the world championship, so I feel like it's better to wait.
Every situation is a little different.
For sure. Yeah, every fighter's different, like every situation's different, yeah.
Next question is from Paul Maskey. He said, with your recent announcement that you intend to go pro, are you planning on cross-training in Dobasutai with Daryl Ray and Lenneth Ray so that you can become the best possible fighter ever?
I didn't think about that, but I might.
Have you ever
him up?
Have you ever met Daryl Ray?
I've never met him in person. I've watched him fight live. Are
you a big fan of Daryl Ray's?
I wouldn't say I'm a big fan. No. I wouldn't say I'm a big fan of Daryl Ray. I mean, he's funny. He's definitely funny, but
you don't mind when he talks shit to people on posts and stuff. That is entertaining.
No, it's funny. Like,
you wouldn't say you're a fan. That'd be a stretch.
That's a stretch. For me, that's a stretch.
Okay.
No offense to Daryl Ray. He's cool. But yeah.
All right. Well, Paul, thanks so much for the question. Very good question. We mentioned your coaches, Professor Scott Smith. I know you do a lot of work with Dalton.
Yep.
What coaching staff or people should we give a shout out to before we start the process of wrapping up the episode?
Yeah, I would like to shout out Scott Smith. He's been my jiu-jitsu coach since I started when I was 15. He's like a father figure to me. He's a big role model and somebody that I look up to. So definitely shout out to him. Shout out to my boxing coach, Junie Millar. He's helped me out a lot in my past few fights, and he trains me. He trains me a lot. So yeah, shout out to Junie. And shout out to all my teammates and stuff too.
That's a cool thing about Gracie Jiu-Jitsu Kentucky is whether it's wrestling or just jiu-jitsu rounds, you're able to get a lot of different like body styles and different looks because there's so many people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Our gym doesn't have many fighters. Me and Lance are the only fighters that come out of our gym. But just the people that we have at our gym are just awesome. Like they'll help us out with whatever, give us any looks that we need for our fights and stuff. So yeah, we definitely have an awesome team.
I love it. Well, Todd, thank you very much for coming on the show. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on.
I want to thank everyone for tuning in. Of course, we'll have another episode of the Kelly Patrick Show out